Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Data Delicacies. I'm your host, Arun. This is powered by Incentivio. We bring the best and brightest in the industry to talk all things hospitality, talk all things tech, and of course, data. Today, we have a very, very cool guest, someone that is working on the stuff that we're seeing restaurants trying to tackle with on a day-to-day basis, which is digital marketing. It's becoming more and more prevalent. People want it more and more personalized. I mean, we get bombarded with it, in all different spheres now. You speak into your phone, you can hear stuff. But we have Justin Ulrich here, who's the VP of Marketing Evocalize, who has been focusing on this area for quite some time. So, Justin, thanks for jumping on.
You bet. Thanks for having me. This should be
Of
fun.
course. Yeah. So, Justin, let's dive right into it. We've seen a huge change in the way digital marketing has been done and the focus it's being put on it, in the hospitality industry. Talk about how you've seen it transform and how now a lot of folks are using AI to help supercharge their digital marketing efforts.
Yeah, digital marketing it's pretty broad. So if you think it could be range anywhere from like organic, social, into paid digital, across social or across Google, whatever it may be. The trend I'd say is to be more personalized and targeted and more localized in your marketing approach. I believe it was Nation's Restaurant News a couple, maybe 2 months ago, put out a survey and they asked, I don't know how many brands, but what were the top priorities from technology standpoint for 2024, 2025, and local digital marketing was literally the top technology kind of need or interest heading into this year. And because it's really hard to do local digital marketing. So the trend is to be more personalized. The trend is to be more direct, be more relevant with your marketing to folks within certain areas of each store. But if you're talking, you have one or two locations, three locations, it's relatively easy to do with a team, maybe even with one marketer. But when you get into 200, 300, 1,000 locations, 5,000 locations, like it becomes nearly impossible for someone just to
Yeah.
do on your own, which is why, there's technology solutions that are out there like Evocalize, not to get too shameless pluggy on you, but we help to really automate all that localized digital marketing based on location specific data. So you can deploy ads that resonate with each location, or with those around each location at scale, and not have to worry about doing it all by hand because no one has the time or really resources to do that all manually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, appreciate you kind of sharing that sentiment. And what I want to just talk about now is like marketing can be such a broad term, right? I mean, marketing can
Mm-hmm.
there's so many different aspects that come under marketing. And then, your focus on localized digital marketing. Talk about, how restaurants are like some specific examples of how restaurants are using that now to gain more traction. Because I think the big thing, and to your point, you talked about the article from Restaurant News. Just what I've seen at the conferences, I'm sure you have as well. Some of the hot
Mm-hmm.
topics are customer attraction, customer retention, right? It's becoming such a competitive space for a lot of spots, especially like QSRs, FSRs, limited service. How do they really differentiate themselves using local digitized marketing?
I think so. A couple things. I will start by saying, a lot of folks, they think marketing, certain types of marketing or certain tactics or approaches could be kind of a silver bullet, and it's not. I think if it's worth noting that my recommendation as a marketer would be ensure that your experience and everything is nailed down within the four walls of your business at each of your location. You want to make sure that you're providing a solid experience. You're serving up great food, great customer service, great hospitality. Because if you think about once you start throwing dollars at something or marketing energy towards something, you're just going to amplify what is currently happening. So if you're offering a crummy experience, you're gonna get a lot more people in to, experience something that's less than ideal. But if you get it in order and then you start putting marketing efforts towards something, then you can start driving people towards an awesome experience, great food, great hospitality, great service, all those things, which generate more positive reviews and get more and more traction. And it's just a snowball that keeps rolling. In terms of examples of how folks do things well, we've got an incredible partner in Taziki's. I know probably a lot of you listening, you know Julie Wade, who she's a fantastic human being, lots of fun. She's at all the shows, but also understands marketing, and she leverages our platform to rely on data. So one of the cool things that they do is um, they can take like they had an LTO. They wanted to see how shawarma would perform, or I'm sorry, falafel would perform in their different markets. So in order to test it, they had a goal of like selling 8 units per location per day, and they leveraged our platform to push out ads, and they drove sales of 14 units per location per day. And one of the quotes that someone on Julie's team said, to us, she's like, "That's a crap ton of falafel. Like if you don't know how much falafel it is, it's a crap ton." Another cool thing they're doing is they're leveraging our tech as well to look at their year over year weekly comps. So they're checking out sales volume last week compared to the year before, and for the locations that are underperforming according to expectations, they automatically launch ads around those areas, pushing that new item. It's no longer an LTO. It's now a new item on their menu with falafel. And they're actually driving 30% increase in incremental sales around the locations that actually need it. So the takeaway there is if you think of digital marketing at a high level, typically people run national campaigns. It's relatively much easier to execute. When you start throwing a lot of money in a platform, if you look at it from the platform's perspective, they want to spend as much money as possible because they get a percent of every dollar spent on the platform. So think Google, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all these platforms, they make money off of the dollars that are spent. So if they can spend money faster, they can bring in more revenue for
Right.
them. And so the algorithms are created to best serve the platform and thus drive more spend in high population areas. So think of the big metros, New York, Chicago, LA, places like that. They could spend dollars relatively quickly and make more revenue off those dollars spent. But the locations that are really struggling in Des Moines or small town USA that really need the marketing love. And by the way, these are probably folks like your Z's who may be putting their own dollars into a marketing co-op that's being spent to serve another market and they're not getting any of the love. That's aggravating. So leveraging a technology that actually spends within each market when it's actually needed is super impactful, not only to your Z's, they're going to love you for it because now you're actually driving meaningful business to them when they need it most, but then you're also driving overall revenue and performance, on average across your system.
Yeah. No, a lot of great stuff you shared there. Where I wanted to kind of take this was it sounds like, using Tatiki's as a great example, it sounds like they had a good set of data to begin with to then, there you go. I like it. I like it. I got mine somewhere down here somewhere. Right.
Not to derail you by that.
Uh, it sounds like they had a good basis of data to start with to then, make some comparisons and go relatively from there. Are you finding
Mhm.
that a lot of restaurants just don't even have that initial database to begin with to understand, okay, like here's what's kind of performing. We want to push this. And they're kind of from there, they're blindly just kind of marketing because they don't even have a right, foundation to go off.
That is a very good point. So one of the things, like one of the stipulations for a sale for us is we typically don't sell into like anyone with fewer than 100 locations. And that's typically because systems may not already be in the place, or they may have lots of different disparate systems, and maybe things tech hasn't been unified, or maybe it is the data like you're talking about. Because no matter what type of technology you have in place, if you're going to try to automate things, if the data is dirty, nasty data, and it's like garbage in, garbage out, you always hear that. But it's just like it's not going to be as impactful as if you had clean data. Now, that said, the right partners will be able to leverage the data that you have, right? You may have data in a spreadsheet and it's not in some system. You may not be in a CRM, but you can upload it somehow, right? You can, if you have some level of data, you can do marketing a lot more effectively than if you have zero.
Yeah.
And that could be data around like audience segmentation or like demographics of folks who are coming in, that you could track that data and help you segment your audiences to market to. When you have segmentation in place, you can push out the proper messaging that actually resonates the best with those specific segments. There's all sorts of different things that you can do. But what I would suggest is if you're not tracking data, period,
Yeah.
just start tracking the things that you're doing. And then the other part that I hear a lot at events is, and I know that sounds kind of basic, but we hear a lot about, well, there's just all this data out there, and people say they can leverage data to do XYZ, and people are going out to get data and they're signing up for different
Right.
platforms or different systems. And it's like, okay, well, now I have all this data. Now what? I don't have a data scientist. Like I don't have somebody telling me what to do. None of it's really actionable or insightful, right?
Yeah.
So if instead of just going to get all this data, try to figure out, well, what is it that's going to be most impactful to my business from a marketing standpoint? Like where, like, let's say I do want to start driving more traffic in store or start driving more online orders or whatever it might be, right? Come up with a goal and then figure out, okay, well, what data do I actually need to help me make decisions to hit this goal more effectively? Because otherwise what you'll find is you're just like if you don't have everything within your four walls in order before you start marketing, if you don't have a goal or an idea or a plan and you just start doing things,
Yeah.
there's an infinite amount of things that you can do and you're just going to be throwing money
Right.
at the wall to see if any of it sticks. And a lot of it, like you may come up with some learnings. You're going to come up with a lot of learnings. Either something works or something doesn't. But if you don't have direction as to where you want to go, it's going to be a lot more expensive to generate those learnings than if you had some direction and tests in mind. And getting the
Yeah.
data first is going to be super helpful.
Yeah. I mean, especially now where the margins are so thin and there's not that much money to be throwing around to that stuff. You,
Right.
you kind of have to be very careful about where you're spending those dollars.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
on the Evocalize side, you work with restaurants, but you work with some other verticals outside of restaurants, if I'm not mistaken. Do you? Or what are the parts of what other industries do you work with today?
Yeah, we're industry agnostic. So actually, we
Okay.
started in real estate.
Okay.
Um, Roughly 60% of real estate ads that you see on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Google, whatever, those run across our platform.
Oh, cool.
So we've got, over 1.5 million folks have access to our platform across industries. In real estate, it's a really cool use case because we plug directly into like MLS. So let's say a real estate agent goes in and they have a
Yes.
new listing. It pulls right into the system. They say, I want to launch a
Nice.
program. It's not even an ad so much as it's a full life cycle program. So, coming soon, just listed, under contract, accepting backup offers or sold or whatever it might be.
Right.
There's a
Right.
whole series of ads that kind of can be produced automatically behind the scenes, so no one even has to lift a finger to do those things, which is incredible. But we're in mortgage is a big one, insurance. You think fitness, anything franchise that's
Right.
non-restaurant,
Right.
really anything that has a location or multiple locations that need to do marketing around their location to drive traffic, orders, etc.
Yeah. Well, see, all the stuff that you're talking about, those are all, the benefits of having localized marketing is huge because if you're a gym, you want the people in that area to come to your gym. If it's a real estate, you want
Right.
people, whether it's in that area or people looking in that area to look at this place. So the reason I was asking that, Justin, is how would you compare how marketing is being done in other industries versus hospitality? Would you say hospitality is kind of like on par? Are we still catching up? Like, where do you kind of put hospitality in the realm of all the other things you work with today?
I think it's definitely catching up. It's
Yeah.
behind for sure. And I think there's a couple reasons. One of them being just acquisition cost. Like if I'm trying to sell a home, it's like I can spend more dollars on marketing because all I have to do is sell one home and it's going to pay for everything.
Right.
Whereas if I'm at my average ticket, maybe like if I'm a smoothie shop or something, it may be $10, $12 and it's costing me five to get someone there. I'm just throwing out wild numbers, but that it eats at your margins the lower your the lower your ticket volume is. And so a restaurant is one of those spaces where it's like it's probably the lowest, honestly. Like if you think of if I'm going to go get if I'm going to get a landscaper to come, or if I'm going to go get a massage, or if I'm going to go get a gym membership, all of these things that you're driving people to do are typically like monthly recurring memberships. So those areas are a lot further ahead, candidly, with regards to leveraging tools like us to be able to do your digital marketing at scale, just because there's a little bit more of an appetite for spend there. That said, if you have much higher like AUV, those tend to do a lot more spend as well. If you think like steakhouses or like, folks that have a much higher check amount within the restaurant space, they're going to be a little bit further ahead as well.
Yeah. So do you, I mean, with that being said, do you ever see the hospitality industry be able to catch up? Because I mean, the costs,
Mhm.
uh, you know, it, most of what happens in the world, the hospitality industry gets hit the hardest, right? You have supply chain costs, you have labor costs, you have, I mean, different, rules and mandates across different states happening now, weather-related stuff, right? So are there always going to be a laggard in that sense because of like how chaotic it can be, the hospitality industry?
Um, I mean, that's a really good question. You're asking one person for one opinion. So I think personally, I think that they're going to be behind they'll always likely be behind. It's not going to be, not to say that they won't be effective at it,
Right.
but other industries are already going,
Yeah.
right? So you're already kind of behind. And as other new things come out, other industries will adopt before restaurant, because restaurant's still trying to catch up. But I think they'll get to the right spot, because really technology just continues to advance at such an incredible clip that it's going to help get folks there. I think there's lots of you hear all the time at like all these events, like there's lots of conversation around like dynamic pricing. Like, well,
Yeah.
tons of other industries do it. Why is it so crazy for a restaurant? Literally, like almost all the other industries do it. You go into a grocery store or wherever, they have like digital tags on there because they're going to change prices. Now they're going to use those tags to put on other like SKUs. I get it, but it gives you the opportunity to change something, and people don't even really realize it. I think unfortunately, the restaurant just hasn't been accepted yet. It'll get there, but just like that, like I think other like that we're still behind from a tech perspective. I do think that as time goes on, technology gets better and better and better.
Mm.
Costs go down, and it allows you to do things a lot more cheaply, or a lot more effectively, a lot more quickly. We've got users that were spending 9 hours a week managing their ads. We put our product in place and they spend 9 minutes a week. So they save like 98% of their time that they can spend on something else, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's I think that's kind of where I see things going. The technology's there, it's getting better and better. Once more folks start adopting and proving it out, I think the restaurant space also leans a little pretty heavily on what others are doing to prove it out first. Just because there's not a lot of folks who want to be first to like implement an expensive technology or whatever, because it may flop, or maybe they've used a similar product that they didn't deliver and it flopped. We get in conversations like that quite often, where folks have used one or two of our quote unquote competitors, but and it didn't work out. So it's like, your product sounds really good, it looks incredible, but I can't pull the trigger on it because my neck's on the line if it fails again, type of thing. You know what I mean? So I think that
The trial and error like spectrums are way smaller.
yeah, exactly. And I think too that for good reason. Like if you look at the restaurant space, there are so many different technologies for everything. Like
Yes.
if you named one thing, we could fire off like 5 or 10 different solutions that cover off
Easily.
on that one thing,
Yeah.
right? Whether it be marketing or loyalty or whatever, right? CRM or CDP, whatever. It's just POS, like 100 different options. Like there's so many different things, and it's like you can't just go from trying to trying to trying to trying and keep trying different things and bouncing back and forth. Which is why another, uh, if you're listening and you follow Rev, Ciancio.
Yep.
He's at every event and he speaks at every event. And his sessions are honestly like some of my favorite sessions to go to because he gives like super, super actionable insights of, with regards to marketing. He's a fantastic marketer, as well as technology. And to talk about like, well, what are the things you want to look at? Like, what are your non-negotiables from a
Yeah.
tech perspective if you want to put something in place? And you want to make sure like the partner is a good partner, they're going to work with you, but you want to make sure the systems integrate well and work really well with each other. You want to make sure there's not a lot of tech debt, not a lot of overlap between what solution A and solution B does if you're trying to bring in solution B. But it's just like there are so many things to consider, so many things that all these technologies can do. Let's just focus on the things that you actually need. I talked about goals a little earlier. What are the goals and the things you're trying to accomplish, and put tech solutions in place that help you do those things. You're going to get some extras here and there, features you may not really even use with some of this technology, but you don't have to go in and buy, the most expensive technology that has all the bells and whistles when you don't have the data to power it, or you don't have the people to run it
Yeah.
within your organization
Yeah.
or know how to do it effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there where I think even us on the vendor side, we could probably do a better job of like conveying the message of what we do, right? Because, anytime we talk to a customer, it's like, yeah, if you use our platform to 100%, here's what you're going to get. But like in most cases, how many people are using anything to 100%, right? So it's like, how can you make it super
Yeah.
easy for them, but also for them to understand and get bought in as to like, hey, if you use this thing, does it benefit to your business? But make it easy enough where, again, if we're living in the world, we know how to use our platform with their eyes closed. But if you have a marketer or maybe it's a manager on the floor or whatever that is, can you convey that same message that trickle down, especially again if you're working with 100 plus, there's a lot of train the trainer, right, where if
Hmm.
you maybe use the platform and it's like, are they getting the full thing out of it, and have we made it easy enough for them, or is it just way too complex, or is the value prop completely shut?
That's a really good point. So I think vendors typically, everybody drinks their own Kool-Aid, right? And it's like, dude, our product can do this, 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 and there's so many things it can do. All of it is really cool, right? Especially like you're making the choice, like I'm making the choice as a marketing leader to work for Evocalize because I think the platform is incredible. I do think that it's cutting edge, it's patented. We're like really the only ones that can do what we do.
Yeah.
Shameless plug. But it is a really fun place to work and it's an incredible product. Now, if I as a marketer, if I go in and I say I jump on a demo call or an intro sales call and I say, our
Yeah.
product is this, and I go to all 20 things that we do really, really
Yeah.
well. By saying everything, you're saying nothing, basically, because the operator is going to get lost in the sauce. They're not gonna really, nothing of what you're saying is going to resonate. It's like if you're walking through Times Square and you're seeing all these signs, and it's like last time I walked through Times Square, like I can't tell you one thing that I remember as a brand from all the billboards around me, just because there was so much stuff to take in, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like if you give them everything, it's going to give them nothing. Now, if you do your job really well, identify like, hey, like what are your pain, like what are the users or the operators pain points that you're trying to solve for? Like what are the things that you really like, the top three things that you wish your marketing platform could do or your XYZ platform could do,
Right.
or
Right.
just the problems that you think marketing can or whatever could help you solve. And then as a good, marketing person or salesperson, then you can guide the conversation toward the thing that they're dealing with. And and then eventually down the line, like introduce those other things, baby steps, crawl, walk, run, right? You can get those other cool things set up once you already give the core things in place that are really going to make an impact to their business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's that reverse engineering, right? Versus I think, sometimes on the vendor side, we're just coming in and saying all the great things we do, but it's like, does that align with what they want to do? At what stage of
Yeah.
complexity are they as a group, right? Because I mean, a farm and a location group sometimes can, they could have gone by the way they're going, but we've talked to groups that are like half that size and have a way more complex way of how they look things. So I think it's like just assuming that they're all at this stage going to do all this stuff is not always the right way to go at it.
Yeah. And I will say, like, if you're a marketer out there and you work for a brand, like from a vendor's perspective, if you actually know your stuff you know your goals, the things that you're trying to accomplish, like the conversations go way more effectively. Not the
Yeah.
conversation is not effective as in I can sell you better. But if you know what you want to accomplish for any vendor that you're vetting, it makes it so much easier for them to say, okay, this is how I can actually help you accomplish the thing that you're trying to do, as opposed to a lot of calls you'll go in just kind of blind and as a vendor you got to kind of tease things out of the individual you're speaking with,
Mhm.
because sometimes it's like there are barriers because no one wants to be sold. But we had a call the other day with this agency, and they said, look, let me just tell you what I'm trying to do, and I'll show you what I sold into a client, basically. And it basically aligned line for line with the product that we provide that would help them do that in an automated fashion. And had
Mhm.
they not just said, okay, look it, like this sounds really cool. Like, let me just show you what I'm trying to accomplish. Had they not said that, it would have been circular
Yeah.
conversations to go, maybe a couple weeks down the road. And then candidly, like parties on both sides can have their time wasted if the right conversations aren't being had. So I would say if you're out there, if you're listening and you work for an operator or a brand within a different industry, be be a little bit be open and just let your vendors know that you're speaking with, like what it is you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are, like actually know KPIs that align with your business, and then get down nitty gritty, like can the vendor actually help you do it without having
Yeah.
conversations in this vaporware kind of vector.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that you said that. I think there's, the conversations need to be way more direct and forward because ultimately it has to solve some sort of goal at the end, right? And things can pivot, but ultimately, if you're just going there and two sides are talking about completely different things, that's when it's just stale. I mean, people's times get wasted. Um,
Yep.
one quick thing I want to ask you here, we see this happen now, not just in hospitality, but across the board, where there's ChatGPT or AI models creating content, right? Whether it's pictures, whether it's like, paragraphs, whatever that is. And sometimes you can tell, right? You look at this thing, you're like, this was written by, you know, I get emails sometimes when people, I'm like, this was written by ChatGPT. You could just tell, or a picture somewhere is like fully AI generated. How do you kind of
The
like,
fingers are like this, they're like weird
exactly, right?
fingers.
Yeah, yeah. Or the burger just looks like it's like purple, and you're like, hey, this isn't right. So, how do you like what are your thoughts on that? And how do you get people, and some people maybe just have the resources, that's the only way they can go to, but like, how do you combat against that? What's advice you'd give to other marketers on being careful to not go too deep down that path and the reliance solely on just like AI generated stuff?
um This is actually a really fun topic. So, like AI to me, I love AI and I use it literally every day, and my team
Yeah.
uses it every day. Garbage in, garbage out. Once again, if you don't know how to leverage the platforms, that's when it can get dicey. You go down rabbit holes, you produce crummy content,
Yeah.
stuff that doesn't resonate, or the quality just isn't there. But if you learn how to do it correctly, then it can be such a time saving. And I think that not to say, because I hate, I don't like being referred to as a perfectionist internally. Like I don't like referring to myself as that, but I kind of am, and I don't know how to articulate another way that like I historically coming up in my career, I would nitpick and I'd spend 50% of my time getting a product 85% of the way there. And then the
Right.
other 50% of the time trying to get the 15 dialed and really only get 5% out of it. Like it's just like it's kind of crazy. But if you can get something 85% of the way there and be comfortable with it, then you can leverage these tools to really just help you crank. So uh, I probably have competitors listening. Totally fine. I'm going to give away some secret sauce because I know
Cool.
it's going to be a lot more beneficial for other folks who are out there trying to figure out their marketing. So we have four marketers including myself on my team. We came into the industry, like I said, we're about 11 years old now. Roughly a year and a half ago, we came into the restaurant space and really started. Yeah, it was roughly in May of last year. That's when we started showing up at events and targeting restaurant. Our engagement metrics are through the roof. They go hockey stick.
Yeah.
From like, as an example, on LinkedIn, because we focus primarily on LinkedIn. That's just where a lot of a lot of our business gets done and conversations are had, relationships are formed, stuff like that. It's a great platform. On LinkedIn, we went our first month of really focusing in restaurant. We had about 2,500 engagements on LinkedIn per month, right? That was the first month. And before that, it was pretty flat, same number. And then once we kind of started focusing, creating content, high volume of content, created more and more and more, and started engaging folks and forming relationships and stuff. Now we're at like 35,000 engagements a month. That would be like a month or so ago, last time I checked. So it's hockey stick, right? Because over the course of 3 months, now we're looking at 100,000 instead of
Yeah.
six or seven, 7,500, right? So it's incredible. Now, part of the trick is we created a vehicle so we can not only engage folks, form relationships, uh, involve others, like tag others and gain access to other people's audiences that are already built rather than have to build our own audience from the ground up. And the vehicle is a podcast, just like we're doing here. It's an incredible B2B tool. But then if you do it right and you create, because this is long form content we're creating, all this content, you could take that video and upload it into different AI tools, and it cranks out a blog post, cranks out social posts, the actual copy. It cranks out, we get 5 short form videos, like 30-second to a minute long videos from each episode. We get blog posts that we can share with our guests to put on their website. Like there's so many things that are created just with AI tools, and it's literally you upload a video and it cranks it out in like 10 minutes, 5 minutes or whatever, after all the time, it takes to kind of
Yeah.
weed through the tool or weed through the project and stuff like that. But then we go through and we then can make edits or approvals or whatever. But the time savings is incredible. And we're able to create a ton of content. We post about 6 times a day on the weekdays. So doing that volume of content not
Right.
only allows us to learn and gain learnings because we're accelerating our content that we're pushing up, we're accelerating our learnings to see what actually resonates with folks, and then we can make more of the content that actually sticks as opposed to just doing one post a week or a day. Some of our competitors, honestly, they do 2 or 3 posts a week, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do you gain any learnings from that at
Out of
all?
sight, out of
You're going to
mind,
have
right?
to,
Yeah.
yeah. And you're going to have to, if you think we may have, and I know, I track all the metrics. We may have lower per unit engagement metrics per each post that we do, but in aggregate, far and away, we eclipse the competition because we are just going. And we're going so fast, and we have multiple people on the team that are on board. It's like if you're not using the tools, you better, if you're coming up against our company with a team, you better have at least 15 marketers. I'm not kidding. Like
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
going. We are going.
Yeah. I mean, content is king, right? And you got to stay top of mind. But I think what AI helps with is dissect one
Yep.
piece of content that maybe in the past, maybe you just keep reposting the same thing or having to manually slice and dice things versus, I mean, even for this, like we use a thing called, Fireflies, and there's other stuff. There's all these different cool, pieces of tech out there that can make this into like, again, one piece of content is now 15 things that
Mhm.
you could continue to like use over and over, which I'm
It's
sure
yeah, it's
restaurants as
called
well. It's big for them, right? Because again, for them to have the creativity to think of something, and then how do you post it, and this and this and that. I think
hmm
that's, I definitely see. I mean, I use a lot of AI in my kind of ChatGPT, all that stuff in my own life. It helps a lot, but I can also find myself. I don't want to get too reliant where it's like I put
right.
something in, I'm like, wait, this is not, I would not write this, right? Which I tend to see
Yeah.
that sometimes on LinkedIn now. I see a lot of LinkedIn posts, and I'm like, this looks oddly like a Chat GPT post.
They there are tools out there that actually do create for you on LinkedIn, which I don't use because it's not, to me, that's not authentic. And but I
Yeah.
will say this, if I'm reviewing something and I'm like, yeah, this sounds like something I could say or I would say, then I would use it. But I will assure you, for those who are listening and watching, like I am a human being. I'm not AI. So don't be fooled.
Yes.
Um, but you're like, the stuff you're saying is not that incredibly insightful. So we know you're not AI. No, no, but
Justin,
yeah,
no, so you,
go
you
ahead.
shared you shared a lot of awesome stuff on this episode, and I feel like we could go on because I think when it comes to marketing, and all the creative ways you can do it and all the different pieces of tech out there, sky's the limit. And I think, to your point, restaurants, they have a long way to catch up, but if they can do it right, we've seen a lot of brands go from nothing to something just through marketing alone, right? And sometimes brand alone and the story you can tell through that, that can get people enough to come back and create a community. And not to say food doesn't have to be the best, but sometimes, I go to a lot of places where the food's pretty good, like not the best in the world, but it's because they've created that community through the marketing that they've done, where it's like, hey, I want to go back here and this is what I want to be part of. So, you guys have been doing awesome things, and I appreciate you sharing kind of your story here on this podcast.
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate you having me on. I think for all those listening out there, like, don't get bogged down at like the thought of having to put a massive plan in place or having to get all this extra data or anything like that. It is okay to try things, and I would recommend try new things, fail fast, give yourself the freedom to not succeed, learn from those failings and move forward from there. And you'll find yourself in a position where you've got some forward momentum upwards from a marketing standpoint and having a real impact to your business.
Love it, man. That's a great way to cap it off. So let's do this. Let's end with a quick lightning round, just so folks get to know you a little bit
Yeah.
better. I'm going to shoot off a few questions at you. First thing that comes to mind, let's hear it. So, you're obviously a tech guy. What's a piece of tech that you're using, the most on a daily basis today? Whether it's an app, whether it's
Uh,
a physical technology. Yeah.
ChatGPT for sure.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, it helps you get past any blank canvas on anything. So whether you're going through product naming or you want to help, consolidate like, hey, I have this long thing, let's make a one pager out of it or a website or blog post, whatever it might be. ChatGPT is gold.
Love it. If you were to start a restaurant tomorrow, what would be the vibe and what would you name it?
Oh, oh man, that's a good one. Probably like I love Costa Vida,
Okay.
just because I've it's near and dear to my heart. I used to go there multiple times a week, so it's right around the corner
Yeah.
from where I worked in Denver. But I love the vibe. It's relaxed enough for a family to go there. I have four kiddos, so I could always take my kids there and not get scowled at. Um, but it's like the fresh. I love the beach. Like I just love like Baja Mexican.
Love it. Love it. And what would you name it?
Costa Vida.
Nice. Nice. Um, what is your favorite food city in the world?
Ooh, New York. I used to
Right.
work for a bear out in New York, and I go a couple times a month or whatever. I go to all the great places. They were all our customers: Danny Myers Group, Unisquare
Yeah.
Hospitality. All the different great places are out there.
Love it. Love it. And do you have any question for me?
How do you do it? What's your secret? What's your secret? But 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 what's your secret?
Do it. Do
It
the thing.
glitched out. It
Oh,
glitched
say
out.
it.
What'd you say?
Sorry, repeat your question. I think you glitched out on my side too.
Oh, I said, how do you do it? What's your secret?
Good question. I try to be genuine, just be me. I think we talked about this stuff, right? There's a lot of reliance on AI and tech and whatever. And I think what I've learned, not only just through this working here at Incentivio, but just in life, that um, at the end of the day, there's so much tech and all this stuff. People crave human, just being human and being,
Yeah,
and then they were in the hospitality industry, so you have to be hospitable first. So I've always said like, hey, I pride myself being genuine. And it's like, you like me, you don't. But for the most part, I don't have people on the don't side. So that's it.
right.
Just be you all the
Same.
time. And it's way less exhausting than try to play, put on multiple different faces. So I hope I answered your question, but I thought it was like fairly open-ended. So I try to answer the best I can. So good question though. Good question. Makes you think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a question I definitely was not expecting an answer to, so you blew it out of the water. Good
Oh,
job.
well, hey, appreciate it. Good. We're good at making stuff up, I guess. All right, I guess I got ChatGPT over here in the corner now. I'm joking.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Justin, man, I can't thank you enough for jumping on. You showed a lot of great gems, and I think this is a lot of stuff that can resonate with, a lot of our folks that are listening when it comes to marketing. So, before we sign off here, if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
You could just search me up on LinkedIn, Justin C. Ulrich. Also, Evocalize, Evocalize, vocalize.com, and we're at Evocalize on all the different platforms.
Love it. Justin, you shared again some amazing stuff. Episodes a lot releasing every Wednesday, so make sure you tune into this one. This is going to be a fun one, and of course, reach out to Justin. He's a guru when it comes to stuff, and overall awesome guy to know. Kind of epitomizes what hospitality is, and that's why I like bringing people like you on the show because I think this is what it's all about. So, Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it. For all those that tuned in, thanks for checking in Data Delicacies. If you want to be part of the conversation, reach out to me, reach out to Justin, comment on our podcast. We post every Wednesday. Everywhere you can get access to the podcast will be on there. And if you're interested in being on the show, please reach out to me directly at arun@incentivio.com. In the meantime, this was Powered by Incentivio. I'm your host, Justin. Thanks again. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.
Thanks for having me.